Hello everybody and welcome back to the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series here in 2022. We've reached round 8 of this season and we make our second trip across to the Far East and Japan at what it's arguably its most famous circuit, Suzuka International, with all of its corners of course twisting and intertwining each other, and one of the very few circuits in the world that's actually a figure of 8, as I'm sure you know already. Very famous S's of course, and the world famous 130R as well, but all those corners doesn't mean that there is no chance for overtaking here into the Casio Triangle. For example, I'm sure we're going to see some late braking diving manoeuvres in these radicals, and we have all season long so far. After this race, we'll be 2/3 into this championship and we're becoming more and more clear as to who is going to win this title. Simon Edwards absolutely running away with this one, 87 points ahead of his nearest rival Paul LeMay, with Graham Brown a further 11 points back. Edwards has not finished outside the top 5 all season, having taken 3 race wins as well, so it's been a completely dominant display from him so far. The drop weeks are likely going to hurt him just a little bit, but even so, he is standing in incredibly good stead for the remainder of this season. My name's Ewan O'Leary. I'll be alongside Steve Proudley once again for the racing here tonight, and as I said, Steve, we're heading towards the end of this championship, our last trip to Japan out of 2 in this season, and arguably its most famous circuit, iconic corners all around this course, but also a chance to overtake here and there as well. It should be a good race, as we've seen all season long.
Yeah, absolutely. We have seen some really good races. The qualifying is underway now. The guys and girls are out there trying to put that optimum lap in and get onto that pole position. It's going to be interesting to see who gets it this evening, but Suzuka's going to throw up some great opportunities for overtakes, as you've just pointed out there. There are some nice long straights, but more importantly, I think it's quite a wide track in certain areas, and there are a couple of options, shall we say, on lines through corners, different entries, maybe, different exits, just to try and get that pass done. We're going to see some side-by-side action, and certainly on the first few laps, I think turn 1, turn 2 and turn 3 even are going to be contentious corners, shall we say. There's going to be a few people trying to get that prime real estate on the apex and get out into a good position for the rest of the race.
Absolutely, we are just a few minutes through qualifying at the moment. Guys on their final lap for the most part. It's currently Paul LeMay who's at the top of the standings with a 152.3. High one on 152.3, I'll add, but Mike Booson is just behind him. Simon Edwards nearly half a second down, and that is a big gap compared to what we've seen so far this season. As you'd expect though, very, very difficult circuit, and so the time gaps are likely to be a little bit larger than you would otherwise expect. It says Paul LeMay is actually on an outlap here, which suggests to me that he's been in the pit lane and might not be able to actually do another flying lap in this one, but I might be wrong in the way that iRacing works, to be honest. Mike Booson also, well, that was just the camera, excuse me, he is actually fine towards the final couple of corners. That's his Simon Edwards, so second and third, looking to try and overtake LeMay right at the death here. Edwards goes to the front with a low 152. What about Mike Booson? Does he improve? Well, only just a little bit. And so it looks like Simon Edwards might well steal pole here. Paul Clark is going to give this one a go as well, going up towards the line, but he's not really going to get anywhere near Edwards, so it looks like he's going to be a pole position once again for the reigning champion and indeed championship leader, trying to make it 2 for 2. Graham Brown, not a previous champion of this season, but he's having a fairly good year up at the moment through the final few corners right now and over the line. Only top 5, but 8/10 back, so I'd be surprised if he can actually improve at all here. Over the line he goes, and no improvement really for him. So it looks like we do indeed. Well, Paul LeMay just coming up to the final corners at the moment, but is this lap time going to complete itself here? Because I'm not sure if our graphics wrong at the moment, or if he's actually on an outlap. This would be his 3rd lap complete right now. He's not slowing down, so maybe the rules have changed or something, but these guys are carrying on just that little bit longer. I do just wonder if these guys have been allowed a few more laps here today for whatever reason.
Yeah, maybe it would appear so. Like I say, they're still carrying on after the three usual laps, but it'd be interesting to see. Everything, I'm sure, will be explained. Will make itself aware. Just watching the times now, and it's the usual characters. Obviously, Simon Edwards, Paul LeMay up there, and Graham Brown and Mike Busson, Paul Clark, all sort of the normal characters we see up there. They're all doing the usual job. Suzuka, it's a difficult track as well to get that optimum time out of it as well, because there's plenty of room on the track, but there's also a couple of different angles for everybody to attack the track from, and it's going to be difficult. We always see as well in these qualifying sessions, the guys do tend to get that best time in that last lap, and I wonder if that's going to be the case tonight.
Yeah, so just to explain here, I've just read in the Discord, I probably should have read this before to be quite honest with you, but 15 minutes open qualifying session this one, suggesting to me that there's not a limit on the amount of laps that the guys can actually take, and the fact that we joined this qualifying session 2.5 laps the way through, despite the fact we've joined at exactly the same moment as we have done for the last 7 weeks, does also suggest that this format is working a little bit different here tonight, and so that is kind of make things a little bit different. Also, during the race, it will be a 20-lap race, and fuel is limited to 1/3 of a tank, 26.5 litres. I find it somewhat hard to believe that they're going to make it all the way there, unless they're doing just over 1 litre a lap, which I'd be very impressed by in terms of fuel consumption, but I also think is not likely. It's quite a long lap, and also not the most fuel-efficient cars I've ever seen at the Radicals, so yeah, I do just wonder if there's going to be a pit stop. 20 laps also around this one. It's going to be a little bit of a longer race here today. There just tend to be a longer race or two within a season of the Radical Race Series, so this is going to be one of those. I actually thought that longer race was going to be at the Nordschleife, because we have quite a few laps there, and obviously it's a very long circuit, so yeah, I thought it was going to be there, but maybe we've got a few more laps here this time around as well. Either way, Simon Edwards is currently leading, and even though we do have an open session here, I can't see people staying in the pit lane very long here if they want to at least get pole. Here's Simon Edwards again, by the way, not really improving this time, but as you mentioned there, people tend to get faster as they go along. As they stay out there, they just get faster and faster and faster. If that continues on, then surely they're going to be out here for more time than they're going to be in the pit lane, and I can't see, like you would see in a normal qualifying session with other cars, you see, maybe one flying lap and then in again. We won't be seeing that in the Radicals really, because you just kind of build that momentum and build that speed up. But so I guess we might not see that many people in the pit lane too often. I've seen, especially Simon Edwards has been out there almost constantly so far.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's worth just staying out there, really, isn't it? Because every lap, potentially, like you said, it's difficult to get that ultimate lap in. So the more cracks we can get at it, then the more chance you have of doing it. But we're just seeing Edwards up there by the skin of his teeth, really. Almost a couple of tenths. It's not a big margin, but potentially, I mean, I say that, and I'm going to check myself up a little bit, Ewan, because realistically, we've seen the top 3 or 4 in the last few rounds all very, very close, and that gap that's there now of a couple of tenths, 3 tenths down to Russell Nesson, normally doesn't appear until sort of P5, P6, does it?
Well, no, that is true. However, I feel like this being a longer circuit and a more difficult circuit, that does still mean that these times do look kind of normal. It's just kind of stretched out. Compared to what we've seen at for example, the Mosport or an Interlagos that we've seen Okayama for the last few weeks. See Watkins Glen last time, a little bit longer circuit, but those 3 in particular, we saw very close margins there because there's just not much time to make up time or indeed lose it at those circuits. But this one, it's so difficult. There's grass lining everywhere. One mistake is actually going to send you off the road, so you do need to kind of keep within yourself. But also, if you're willing to make up that little bit of time, there's a lot of corners for you to do so. So that's why we're seeing quite big time gaps as Simon Edwards comes in here. Paul LeMay is out there, but he's looking fairly solid for that pole position. Just under 2 tenths of a second is his margin. I can't see the reigning champion really being displaced here.
No, nobody's really. There's a few guys with green sectors, but they're not actually setting the track alight. No one's looking like they're going to really steal that pole position. But it's good to see. I prefer this open qualifying from my point of view as a spectator. It's nice to see them not being limited to the number of laps and just hit the track and do as many laps as you can in the time allowed and get that lap time. I think it potentially makes for a lot more. A competitive qualifying session, if you like, because because if you're going to go out there, and a couple of options it throws up to you. Do you go out there with a bit more fuel on just to stay out and hit the track hard and just keep circulating, or do you go out there still with low fuel and just keep putting fresh sets of tyres on? But obviously you've got to take into account the out laps, and that's dead time, isn't it? So it throws up a little bit of a tactical option in qualifying.
As we're running down the very final moments of this qualifying session, I'm not sure if this is going to work like our racing does often and just end these guys at the 15-minute mark, or if they're going to let them, like you would see in real life, let them end their actual lap. But by the way that everybody's kind of losing motivation very late on here, just pulling off the road, I think that it's going to be just pull everyone from this, and then we'll be over with this qualifying session. There the checker flag is out. It does look like people are able to complete if they want to, but I can't really see anybody going for it out there at the moment. We're watching Paul Clark, but he's not really going at a real pace. Colin Wynn is just behind. I think he's just not really going very quickly either, although he might be. Maybe there are a couple out there who are going to improve, but it's really not going to be very many at all. It's going to be Simon Edwards on pole by the looks of things, and nobody's really going to improve here up towards the front, so it's another good performance from Edwards, and he'll be taking this pole position, and 20 laps ahead of us, so a good 35 minutes of a race here tonight. It's a much more lengthier task than what we've seen in the past in this series, but I think Simon Edwards will be able to stand up to the challenge, no problem at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's got this one in the bag by the looks of the times with the cars that are left out, as you say there, Ewan. But they're still out there, and Richard Brown is. I don't think he's going to jump far up. But he may improve slightly, but he's got a tall order now, and I think he's just winding the clock down realistically. I mean, Simon Edwards is still out there circulating, but it's not looking like he's going to really extend that gap too much, if at all, really. But it's a healthy 0.181 of a second that he sits up there on that, what is a provisional pole at the moment, and the lap he's on at the moment. Obviously, he's an out lap, so he's not really going to do anything there to improve. So, great qualifying session. I don't think anything's really changed from what we normally expect. To be fair, we've got Edwards, May, Buisson, Brown, LeMay, Clark, all up there and battling away for those top spots. But it'll be interesting to see how they spread out at the early parts of this race, and see if they can actually cling together and we get any pack fighting, or whether there'll be a breakaway at the front.
I think people will stay together at least a little bit throughout the first part of the race. We have a long straight section, basically from the hairpin after Degner 2 all the way to the Casio Triangle, really. I know you've got Spoon Curve in the middle of that, but I guess turn 1 as well, because the chicane's not really a place where you can make up much time either, so there could be a lot of slipstreaming going on through that section of the course. It's just a case of how much the field splits apart through sector 1, really, because it's very tricky. We are likely to see cars off the road through there, especially on the opening lap, where the field is going to be very bunched up indeed. But waiting for the qualifying grid and the race to begin here, really. But for the moment, the guys just be sat waiting and figuring out how they're going to really attack this race. As I said earlier, 20 laps and only 26.5 litres of fuel, so I can't see them making it all the way. Let's see how the strategy works out. But it's going to be Simon Edwards on pole once again ahead of Paul LeMay. Mike Bousson is going to be alongside him with Graham Brown. Then it's Michael LeMay and Paul Clark. Colin Wynn and Martin Booker on the fourth row together ahead of Richard Brown and Graham Brown, who round out the top 10. Sergio Cruz is alongside Jamie Bird in 11th and 12th position. Then in 13th we've got James Child and Darryl Taylor just beside him. Then as we go to the guys over a second behind, Ray Peasley and Martina Ward are next, and Phil Jocelyn and Tim Adcock on row 9. David Roderson and Dave Dowson round out the top 20, and Phil Glover, Guy Robertson and Paul Wilkins round out your 23 car grid for today. As you said though, pretty much the grid order you'd expect here for this race. No real big surprises. We'll see if there's a shock in this race, because this track does certainly have the ability to throw up some surprises with how difficult it is. And just keeping it on the road and getting to the end of this race is going to be a challenge. Simon Edwards and Paul LeMay on the front row together. They're going to be racing down towards turn 1. absolutely side by side, you'd imagine. LeMay can get just a good enough start, and he's got the inside for 1 and 2, which is going to really benefit him in this one. Because yeah, it's a long corner to hang it over around the outside there. And so you don't really want to be out there. Edwards is going to want to convert this start as lights just get shown up there, and we're going to see 5 red lights here in a few moments' time to go racing. The UK and Ireland Radical Race Series at Suzuka is underway, and I'm afraid it's not good for Paul LeMay at all on the front row. He's had a disaster start while Simon Edwards has absolutely flown. Look at the car lips he has here. Almost half a second already. He's got absolutely free rein over the first 2 corners. Oh, and there's chaos in the background. Colin Wynne looks like he's been around, so does Graham Brown quite possibly from 4th position in this race. He's been around. Both Graham Browns have been around actually. It's a shame to see for them. Turn 1 and 2 has provided the chaos for us, I'm afraid. It's always to be expected as that mid part of the field was especially bunched up. And just look how strung out it is already. There has been chaos going on further down.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to maybe get a couple of those replays, just keeping an eye on the front of the field at the moment while they sort themselves out, and we'll have a look and see what happened back there. It did look a little bit of a mess at the start there, but looking like Edwards has really got the hammer down now, and he's already gapping some of these guys on and getting a bit of a cushion, almost a second out there. So he's, as we see, Russell and Meg almost going side by side there, and he's trying to switch places around. Try a little bit harder than that. He's very much in the slipstream, and he's making a move for that second place. He's making his intentions felt right at the beginning of this race.
Yeah, he is indeed. He's getting a bit of as he goes off it, Mike pushes it off, and Michael LeMay is going to make his way through here. Fantastic start for Michael LeMay there, and helped by Poussin going wide through Spoon Curve. Now we've got Paul Clark just behind Poussin there. He's going to fancy his chances here as well. A lot of slipstream coming down from Spoon Curve to 130R. It's a pretty much flat out corner for these guys. Very fast turn. Paul Clark just in and out of existence briefly. Still on the defensive here, as Boussin's not just done at the moment with the Casio triangle, not able to make this move stick. So it looks like the slipstream through that back straight is going to be massive. As we look at what happened a bit further down, that's Graham Brown getting involved with Graham Brown, I think, unfortunately, in this one. And Richard Brown, goodness me, all the Browns involved here, I'm afraid. Coming back onto the circuit has provided a few issues for some as well. There's a lot of tarmac on the outside of there, but it doesn't alleviate any problems that happen, especially on lap 1.
No, absolutely not. I mean, there's a lot of tarmac. There's a couple of lines through there, but if you go off the track onto the grass, there's absolutely no grip there, and the gravel trap does do its job and slows you down. So obviously, big losses there for some of the guys, but we're going to see some battling back through. But Busson, yeah, he's gone backwards, hasn't he, from that 3rd place challenging for 2nd now into defending for his life in 5th place. You know, and it's very, very difficult for him at the minute. He's sort of gone backwards. He's focusing, trying to get into that P4 of Clark, but I think Clark's got him covered at the moment, and he's making hard work of this one.
Just a little bit through. Does Paul Clark just go on the defensive there? Well, not really, because there's a lot of straight sections coming up here for a chance to make a move. A little bit further down, by the way, Sergio Cruz has gone round for a spin at turn 1, I think. I think he might have been involved with Rollerson, maybe. Well, I couldn't tell you actually, but he was certainly involved with somebody, because yeah, there was certainly contact with Cruz. He was knocking on the door of a top 10, but he's well outside of it now in 18th position. As I look a little bit further down, we've already seen Colin Wynne in the pit lane, and Paul Wilkins hasn't taken the start. Graham Brown also, the 63 car, also been in here, so 3 cars with problems out the 23 already in this race, I'm afraid to say. But yeah, look at the slipstream here. We're still under a little bit of pressure, but such a long race here. 20 laps around this circuit. You are going to bide your time a little bit more in this race than you would on a normal Radical Race Series event. So that is good to see. Adds a little extra element for the drivers to really think about here. They have to be a little bit more strategic rather than just making moves all the time like we just see normally.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very challenging. We're just seeing here Brown having a good old battle, a bit of a ding-dong, and definitely getting the advantage there around the outside, even with all that damage. He's managing to go. This is where it's going to test though, when you've got no downforce in turns 1 and 2, very high speed and downforce dependent to get around there, but he's managed to do it. He's gained the position there. Just going to jump up to Paul Clark, and he's defending for his life still against Busson at the moment. As you pointed out earlier, the slipstream very, very powerful, and this is very much a nearly 5-car battle here, because one mistake could see Clark drop 3 or 4 positions back.
Yeah, it certainly could. A lot of battling going on here. That was Adcock, by the way, getting out the way of Cruz there, and Brown, but yes, came unstuck through the S's, as we suspected he might, because he's got no rear wing. Well, he's got partial rear wing. Or is that the other Graham Brown dropping down the order? I'm not really sure, to be quite honest. But either way, that's not a healthy-looking rear wing. There's no question about that. Phil Glover is nevertheless under pressure with 14th position, as we try and look through the forest at the moment to see, and here he is, in 14th position, trying to hold off Brown, who's certainly quicker and out of position at the moment, wanting to make his way through. But you can't imagine that it's really helping the drag on that car either, that disjointed rear wing. We go back forward though, because James Child recently has been applying the pressure to Booson. We've got maybe Bird here as well, Paul Clark, Michael LeMay. Paul LeMay is starting to get away from these guys. Bruce down the inside of Robertson, he's making his way through the order as well. So plenty happening out there at the moment. A lot of overtakes by the looks of things, and this leading group staying very much together, as I thought the actual whole front of the race was going to actually. But Edwards and LeMay have really got away much easier than I suspected they would.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look at Edwards now, it's good 2 seconds up the road, and they're sort of clear as well. It's Clark gets the cork in the bottle behind, I think, and he's I say cork in the bottle, to be fair, he's pulled a little bit of a gap. He's got a little bit of breathing space now, because Busson's having to defend a little bit from Child, or he's obviously very conscious that Child's right there in his slipstream, and behind Child is Bird as well in very close proximity. We see that's Clark making a mistake there. That's all it took. That's what I said a few laps earlier, wasn't it? One mistake and that's it, 3 positions gone.
Yeah, costly from Clark there, I'm afraid. He was leading this group. Now Booson is, because Clark has lost 3 of those places. In Darryl Taylor's in on this one now, in 8th position, trying to get involved. This is all over the battle for 4th, because both of them, the LeMays, both Paul and Michael, are being able to get away from this group as the battle continues on. Certainly wasn't helped by Clark making that mistake either. I just wonder if he's distracted. We've seen him dropping in and out a little bit with his internet connection. I just wonder if he's ever so slightly distracted by the fact that his internet connection is not ideal just for the moment. Obviously you can see that in iRacing towards the top right hand side of your screen, if that's the way your screen's configured, as it is normally. You can see your kind of internet levels and if things are going wrong. And I just wonder if he's ever so slightly distracted by that one, in the same way that when you're hot lapping, trying to qualify for something, for example, you kind of want to turn that off the delta because you keep getting distracted by it. I just wonder if a similar kind of thing is happening with his internet at the moment, as it keeps dipping in and out. I just wonder if he's got half an eye on that and makes a mistake through the deckers because of it. Either way, Booson is back to defending again. He was shuffled back a little bit earlier on and had to go back on the attack, but he's back on the defensive once more and was able to do it very easily there. James Child not really offering up any kind of attack into turn 1 there.
No, absolutely not. It was relatively easy to defend, but I think it's a bit of a tactical game as well on this one. It's a little bit longer than normal, the race, and it's a longer lap, and so I think tactics will come into this a little bit more tonight than we have seen before, maybe. And it is, as we say every week and every race, it doesn't matter where you're racing or who you're commentating on. I think a lot of the overtakes, they just come from putting pressure on that car in front to make a mistake. It's very rarely a speed differential that gains you that position. It's usually down to the fact that you're applying pressure and you get the job done because your opposition has cracked under the pressure.
Absolutely. Also not really got the pace at the moment. 8/10 of a second up to Bird. You can see the fine break in this group at the moment. So looks like these 3 might be getting away ever so slightly in this battle. It doesn't really look like slowing down anytime soon. James Child just really wants to get through here though, as we see that Tim Adcock making his way through on Brown. Yes. So, or trying to attack Robertson, excuse me. Now, Brown was trying to make a move on Phil Glover a minute ago. One of the Browns was, anyway. And came unstuck because he's down in 18th now, I believe. See where this happened. This is Graham Brown trying to recover with the slightly disjointed rear wing. It does. Oh, it's hard to see from this camera angle, but it certainly looks like the two of them have been into contact. Ah, he's unsure as to whether he's come into contact there or whether he's actually spun around by himself, because sometimes we do see that at the hairpin, especially in these downforce cars. The slow speed corners are not actually, they're actually harder than the high speed corners, kind of counterintuitively. There's just no mechanical grip in these cars. It's all down to the aero and the rear wing, you can see on the back of that car. It could be on his own there, but also could have been helped around, very possible. It's a very congested part of the road, but either way he's gone around back down to 18th, so he's got to start all over again almost.
Yeah, difficult making hard work for himself. Lap 6 of 20. Again, longer lap here, so we're not ticking the laps off quite as quick as we normally do. But he's got a bit more time to maybe recover, but he's just not doing himself any favours at this moment in time, is he? And he is making it very, very hard work. But it'll be interesting to see. We have seen some good fight backs in previous rounds from the back of the field coming forward. And, a few names spring to mind that have been able to do that. And we'll have to see how Brown gets on tonight. Up at the front, it still seems to be sort of pretty much stations as you were. Now it's settled down a little bit more, a couple of tenths between each other. The slipstream will still be playing an effect. It'll still be helping to keep them together, but nobody's really close enough to make a move, to make a dive. They are still just relying on the drive to make a mistake. So they're all, racing hard. Line astern. Let's see if we'll see any slipstreams down here now.
Well, there is slipstream, but is there any motivation to get through here? That's the other thing. Because saving that little bit of fuel might be the difference between you and the position. They brake late into, oh goodness, very late into the final few turns. Boussin's still holding on. So certainly holding back these guys. They probably do have the pace of some of those up front. Maybe not Simon Edwards, who's running away again, but certainly one of the LeMays, if not both. Here, outside line for Child. He's had enough of sitting behind Boussin, has he? Round the outside through 1 and 2. It's a brave one, but it could work out because he'd have the inside for 3. As long as he doesn't go too wide, which he might just have done because he's not so much alongside anymore. And so Boussin holds on. You can do it around the outside there, but you do need to pinch your opponent just that little bit more and not go quite as wild as Child did there. But he's had a good sighting run there, and he'll be able to give it another better shot next lap around.
Yeah, we've got Darrell Taylor closing in as well, closing in quite quickly behind these guys as well. So he lapping in round about the same sort of time as these guys. They've all doing very similar lap times, but he's right on the back of Clark, isn't he? He's Taylor now, and he's coming. He's in that slipstream now, and he's going to be making an attack, I would imagine, in the next few laps. Because I think when you sort of catch the guys in front and you sort of close that gap down, you first thought he's not timing around, is it? You want to get past him if you can.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Normally it is, especially in this series, but there's a little bit more patience rewarded in this race. As Phil Glover, I'm afraid, after defending so well earlier on, has had a very long trip through the gravel there. It's one of the very easy things to do, actually, at the Dunlop curve, right at the end of the S section. Just to dip a wheel on the outside and then you can be off in the grass, as Graham Brown nearly did. Oh, he has done. And further out, and he's done it. He's very lucky. There's an escape road there. I don't think that's where the circuit joins from. It's not quite where the circuit joins from. I can't remember what the circuit's called, but where they use the other pit lane, just out of Spoon Curve, whatever that's called. It's not quite where that access road is, but it's clearly some kind of access road, and it's helped him keep his car out of the barriers there. Rather miraculously, as we look at Sergio Cruz, a good recovery for him, but if you look at the gaps here, it's 7 seconds up to 11th. As meanwhile, we go back to the battle for 4th. More important things at hand. James Child giving it another go, but it was not nearly as alongside as last time, so not able to do it. But this is bunching up now, and the pressure on Boussin is becoming more and more and more, and it's just a case of whether he can deal with it for the next 13 laps.
Yeah, for sure, and I'm just wondering about Taylor behind. I'm watching him closely now because I think through this sort of the backside of the track here, the twisty part of the track, he seems to close that gap up, but he's lost time down the back straight as it were, the start-finish straight. So I'm wondering if he's running a higher downforce setup, so it's allowing him, as you can see now, closing up on the back of Clark through the corners. But interesting. We'll keep an eye on that one because his lap times are very similar, so there's not a lot of difference in performance. It's just where he's extracting that performance.
on board with Boosen, trying to defend once more. Taylor's made a mistake though, looking at the gaps. He's completely vanished from our screens as well. All of a sudden, I think that's Martin Booker just behind him. It is indeed. And what happened to Taylor? This could be what happened to Brown earlier on, if you remember. We didn't quite get to see if there was contact or not, but this exact thing could have happened. It's, as I mentioned earlier on, there's almost no mechanical grip in these radicals, and it's very easy to go around like that.
Yeah, it's almost like the brake bias and it's just set too far and the rear end overtakes, but like I say, it's the mechanical grip lacking as well. It's just, there's a multitude of factors there that could be any one of them that's caused that, but the end result is the same. It's a loss of time and potentially loss of position, so maybe looking to get that back. But Child now is going again for the outside line. Busan going very defensive to the inside. Can Child hang it around the outside? I don't think he's going to be able to. He might be able to get a switch back and squeeze it down the inside, but Busan's got that one covered very, very well, and nothing happening on this lap. And Bird keeping a very close eye on these two ahead. He's not wanting to lose touch whatsoever. Clark's just he's keeping a watching brief. He's sat there a couple of tenths further back, ready to pick up any pieces, but definitely Busan, Child and Bird are overthinking it right now.
Is Child trying to get through anymore or not? Because you saw the way they were going down the back straight there. He wasn't alongside of the front straight, I should say. He wasn't alongside the entire time, but he pulled out and stuck on the racing line despite Busan's defensive line. Didn't choose to go for the slipstream. I just wonder if he's decided, and he's trying to indicate to Busan, get in line here. We could have a chance at a podium if you just work with me a little bit. Busan kind of pulling over there and maybe wanting Child to go through, maybe wanting a little bit of slipstream, wanting to do a little bit of pacing at the front maybe, but Child not wanting to go through. But I think that's all the body language looked like to me there. It's just Child didn't really want to get through at all for whatever reason. Jamie Bird is still here though, and trying to.
Sorry, Ewan, I was just going to say on that point of not wanting to get through, do you think it's too early for tactics? Sort of lap 9 of 20, do you think they're already thinking about, well, where can I pass him and he's not going to be able to attack me back before the checkered flag, as it were, just sit here and follow him round? As I said earlier, just keep applying that bit of pressure. That's Bird going through the Bird making a move. Just losing a bit of traction. Clark's going to have a go now, and he's attacking down the inside, and Bird's running wide in his defence. That's not. What a shame.
Into the wall. Jamie Bird tried to be opportunistic there and get through on James Child, but it didn't work out at all. And after the side-by-side moment with Clark, he's just got on the grass on the outside line there, and he's been into the wall just ever so slightly. So that is a real shame for Jamie Bird. He was trying to make some moves there, and he's got a bit of damage now. He's going to be in the clutches of Booker surely soon as well. What a shame this is, as we see the side-by-side moment. Clark didn't do anything wrong. Just don't often run out there, and you don't often know how much speed you can actually take around that final corner. It's completely flat out if you're on the right line, but as soon as you're offline, it's all of a sudden a longer kind of corner, and you can get on the grass, and once you're on the grass, there's no coming back. And there's no coming back in this race for Jamie Bird, you'd probably say, because that damage does look like it's affecting him quite badly already.
Yeah, absolutely. As we were just building it up, and Hal was posing a long-winded question about whether it was too early for tactics, and to think about where you can overtake and not have to defend for too long, as it were, or just keep the pressure on. I mean, what's your thoughts? Do you think they'll be thinking like that already, Ewan? Do you think they're thinking, well, if I attack here, he's going to come back at me? I'm just going to play a watching brief, and maybe it's a penultimate or a last lap pass?
I do think it is too early for waiting for a last lap pass at this stage of the race. I do think, though, what's happening at the moment is Child wants to catch Michael LeMay in third position there. And as long as Child and Busan don't fight here, then they can actually catch them. So I think that they want to fall into line a little bit. And if Busan indeed does take the racing line, and Child just bumps him along ever so, maybe not bump draft him, but certainly you just get him right up close behind him, and then the aero will push you on just a little bit. It's not quite like a slipstream effect, but it is sort of like that, but in reverse, and you can push someone else along. Jamie Bird is into the pit lane now, along with Darryl Taylor, whose tyres are probably quite hot at the moment, so even if he's not going to change any, which I don't think you would in a race like this, you can at least let them cool down for a second after that quick spin. Halfway through the race though, we're seeing pit stops at the moment, and that's what I suspected. Brown also in, so there's also a case of the pit stops to factor in. In terms of tactics, I think those tactics are going to come in later on in the race after all of the pit stops have actually been made in this race. It's certainly too early before the pit stops because you don't really know how this race is going to pan out. And like I said, Bousson and Child are within a shout of a podium now, really, because Michael LeMay continues to get reeled in that third place. And who knows what's going to happen during this pit stop phase. They might well jump him entirely.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we know the tactics in iRacing. If you can do a little bit of fuel saving, it can save you a bit of pit stop time, but it's obviously to the detriment usually of your lap time. So it depends where you are, what gap you've got, what margin you've got. So in such a short race, I think it'll be more about just lights to flag flat out, and what fuel you have to put in, you have to put in. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting, as you rightly say. They are catching LeMay, albeit steady, but definitely catching him. As you can see there, he's just about a second up the road. So it's going to come to fruition. I think there's going to be a battle. They're going to start feeling that slipstream very soon, and that's going to help them to close that gap. It just depends at what point any of these guys decide to make a pit stop, and maybe any overtakes will maybe in the pit lane.
Quite possible. Live for LeMay through the final chicane there, and he's going to have a bad run onto the front straight, so he might well just pit here and cut his losses, because he was going to lose time all the way down the front straight with that bad exit. So he decides to come in. James Child follows him in at just for the moment, and so they're going to be making their pit stop. What was the time for the pit stop of Jamie Bird? 16 seconds, 17 seconds, just half a second longer for Darrell Taylor in this one. So we're expecting something in a similar region for LeMay and Child. Dave Dowson also coming into the pit lane here, having started in 20th position, by the way. He was inside the top 10 there, doing a fantastic job. David Rolliston also in from the very back of the field, well, not the very back, but 19th place, has made up a whole load of places. Guy Robertson also. Child does a 17-second pit stop. Looks like Jamie Bird. Where is Jamie Bird gone here? He's 16 seconds for him as well. Michael LeMay, though, look at that, 21 seconds. But I just wonder if there was damage somewhere there, because that's a very long pit stop for him. And all of a sudden he's well behind James Child. And as I suspected, him and Bousson are not going to have to do any on-track overtaking of LeMay at all, because they're going to overtake him in the pits here, surely, as Graham Brown, I'm afraid, has nosed into the barriers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all playing out there, and Graham Brown not doing any good to his race chances there, and just taking up some pretty heavy damage. In fact, he did just jump back to the pits after that crash as well, so that's heavy damage and big impact on his race. Be interesting to see if he comes back out at all, but he's currently in the pits.
Simon Edwards, I haven't spoken about him or seen him very much, but he's just coming into the pit lane now after 12 laps and leading all of those 12. On the lights going out, he had car lengths over the field, and he's continued to actually extend that. It's Jamie Bird, though, not too far from LeMay. You never know what might happen a little bit later on. Looks like 12 laps is the limit, by the way.
Top 5 in the pits.
Yeah. I was going to say, just waiting for the top 9 to come in as they run right now. I feel like they're all going to come in this lap, though. 12 laps might just be the limit here. Rushing in also. Like Sergio Cruz, he'll be in soon, surely. As will Phil Glover. Oh no, Sergio Cruz is able to carry on just one more lap. As is Glover by the looks of things. So these guys are going to get their moment of glory in the sunshine here by the looks of things. But Edwards has actually come out in between. Oh, and he's crossed the pit exit line there, but he's not going to get in trouble with iRacing for that at least. He might, I doubt, with the stewards as well. Minor thing. But either way, that just shows how far in the lead he was. He's actually able to come out in second place, and the lowest running position he'll ever have in this race looks like it's going to be second.
Yeah, just pure skill and race consistency for Edwards. I mean, he's not really looked doubtful from the start, has he? He got away on lap 1 and had a second lead at the end of lap 1, so it's a dominant performance from Edwards yet again, and doing really, really well here, and pulling away now, and we know obviously he's going to get that lead very, very soon, because Cruz is going to have to come into the pits, and he's still, Simon Edwards still with a healthy gap back to what will be main in second place when everything pans out.
So next first place is going to be Edwards here. It's going to be Paul LeMay in second place. It's going to be Mike Bousson in a battle with James Child for third. then the battle for 5th is going to be very, very exciting, because Paul Clark is leading that group at the moment. Martin Booker has had a good pit stop there, and so he is into 6th. Michael LeMay has had a bad pit stop, so he's involved in this battle as well, with Jamie Bird recovering, despite the fact he had damage there. He actually didn't have a long repair at all. His pit stop time was very normal, but his car does look a little bit loose at the moment. And Darrell Taylor's not too far behind either. After just a tiny bit of a long stop for him there, he's slightly detached, but could be able to get himself involved. So after enjoying the battle for 4th, the first part of this race, it looks like the battle for 5th is going to be the most entertaining so far, but some things don't change. Mike Booson is still defending from James Child, and that has been a consistent thing throughout the first 14 laps of this race.
Yeah, and I think it's going to go on for another 6 laps at least, potentially, as they are now literally slipstreaming down the start-finish. I don't think we're going to see a move here. I think, like you say, that he's maybe just going to sit in behind his and see where it goes. His Child, he's not really pushing too hard, it would seem. I think he has closed up closer than that on previous laps, but at this time he's just happy, like you said earlier, he's just happy to sit there at the moment. They have got a bit of a task to get up to LeMay. He's got a few seconds up the road, so that gap's going to be hard to close, I feel, when they're on lap 14 and 20 now. Not impossible, but they're going to have to go some to do it.
This is exactly why Child didn't really attack Booson earlier on, because he knew that a podium was possible if they fell into line, and that's exactly what's happened. Here's Michael LeMay, and he's not having the best day, I'm afraid. Into the wall, out of turn 2. So he'll be out in the battle for 5th position, I'm afraid. It's going to be Paul Clark and Martin Booker who look like the ones who are really going to contest that one. But I feel like 21 seconds for LeMay suggests to me that there was damage that he had to repair during that pit stop. So I just wonder if something similar didn't happen, because otherwise we would have noticed that. But a little bit earlier in the race, I think he will have had damage at some point, as Tim Adcock just going a little bit wide here through turn 1 and 2. No harm done there, but yeah, Michael LeMay, it seems to be struggling with this circuit just that little bit today.
Yeah, that's Graham Brown there looking to defend from Robertson at the moment, but doing a good job on it. But he's compromised his run there, and he's going to come under pressure again now as they come into the hairpin. But he's got plenty of space there, and it's not looking like he's going to come under too much pressure now, and he's looking relatively safe in that 17th position at the moment. The guys up at the front though are still incredibly close, and just a couple of tenths between them now as we go back onto the start-finish straight to complete another lap. And it's looking like Child maybe this time he's I don't know, he's maybe going to have a go, is he?
Still outside line, there was space for him to have a duck at the slipstream there. I just wonder if he's given up all hope on second just yet, because that gap is 4 seconds, and maybe he's thinking just if they work together here for a moment, there's a chance. Also trying to keep these guys at bay, Martin Booker and Paul Clark, in the reverse order of course. The battle for 5th, I feel like these guys are a little bit more feisty though, and I'm fighting a little bit harder though. Judging by the way the body language is through the first sector, look at that, diving almost at the Dunlop curve. These guys are not trying to get a podium or 4th place whatsoever, they just want what's in front of them at the moment, as shown by that dive by Booker. So I don't think Child has too much to worry about with those behind him. Of course he doesn't really know that because he's not watching the pictures we are, so he still thinks they're bearing down on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes ignorance is bliss, and we just see Clark still having that slight internet issue and just blinking a little bit on track. That's not going to be good for Booker. It's very disconcerting as a driver chasing somebody when the car keeps disappearing. I'm not quite sure where it's going to reappear. Plenty of room at the moment though for them, and yeah, as you say, I think these two guys are battling at the moment because they are battling over that 5th place at the moment, and I think they've sort of probably potentially got no hope really unless there's any mistakes of challenging for that 5th position. As it stands now, the gap's just too big, I think.
It looks like it's certainly going that way, as we see Booson again really having to go on the defensive once more. Not really, as you see, Michael LeMay is continuing to have a poor time of things. Drops down the order again. Onto the front straight once more for Booson. He's kind of not even in the middle of the road anymore. Maybe Child is just lulling him into a false sense of security here and trying to dive down the inside, but Booson's still aware and held the inside nicely there, but Child not aiming to go through. 5 laps to go, and now the tactics do come into play. However, Gerald hasn't really had a good go at getting through yet, so if I was him, I wouldn't totally have 100% conviction that I could do it just yet. I would certainly need another go or two to decide that, and then start to worry about where I want to be before the final lap, as here's Michael LeMay continuing to have problems.
I thought there was it flashed up that they'd overtaken and
Suzuka did go around though.
Yeah, but
it did go around.
So that would explain why he's dropped a bit of time, and he's a couple of seconds further back now from Clark. He's lost about 3 seconds, I think.
And speaking of falling back, Jamie Bird has lost a bit of time, and now Darrell Taylor's got through on him. What's happened here? Oh, it's through the second Degner again. Oh, and that was a very, very wild moment indeed. He did well to catch it and keep it out of the barriers. You want to make contact with them for the second time today. But he did lose a place, so Darrell Taylor is going to say thank you very much and have 7th place, as that's a big mistake from Boosen. And now surely there's never been a better opportunity for Charles to make a move, but it's through 130R that he's going to have to do it, unless he can wait until the chicane afterwards. Through here, well, he's taken a lot of curb there and he's killed a lot of momentum. Boosen knew that he had to defend a little bit more than he has to previously. Now is Charles going to get the run? Another good exit from him, but there's going to be a big slipstream here. He's a little bit wayward on the power there, and surely with 4 laps to go, Charlie's going to try and seize this podium. This is the best chance he's had as he pulls to the outside line, tries to squeeze Boosen. This is not what he did last time. He let it go too wide and it didn't work out. This time he squeezes more and Boosen makes a mistake. He goes for a spin at turn 2 and he's going to lose more than just the 1 place. Paul Clark's going to get through, and Martin Booker, despite his spin, only 1 lap ago, he's going to reclaim that top 5. So a costly error from Boosen as he drops from just on the podium to outside the top 5.
Yeah, and that's one of those mistakes we were talking about, very easy to do. Put under a little bit of pressure there, and from Child, and that's all it took. Just needed that bit of pressure. He just tried to push it too hard on that inside tighter line. The car just said no more, and the tyres said no more, and we just turned him around there. And he did well to hold on to it as well as he did, and not go too far off the track, but it did cost him a couple of positions. So he's going to be a little bit frustrated with himself, I think, after that one.
Certainly is, I think. Go back a little bit further. Richard Brown has started this race a little bit further down in the order and has been working his way up as the day has gone along. Phil Jocelyn inside the top 5 at the moment. Inside the top 10 at the moment. Trying to hold on to that place ahead of Brown. Looking at these guys at the moment. Phil Jocelyn's 16th in the championship. He's ahead, good 6 places ahead of Richard Brown, who's down in 22nd. As we see Dave Doutzen going for a wild ride through the Degners. Goodness me, it was very wild. But as we've seen so often from this circuit, there's not much room for error around here. You can get out of shape very easily indeed.
Yeah, could be seeing a move now with Brown on the slipstream. Now he's going to get very, very close, and it's going to be into 130R, maybe too wide unless he can get that move done before 130R. He's looking close, and he's looking like he's going to pop out of that slipstream any second now. But no, he stays in there, stays behind. Maybe not as close. The camera angle was deceptive, but he stayed behind. Is it going to be into the braking zone? I don't feel it is. I don't think he's close enough now. And he's going to just try and collect it up through the chicane onto the start-finish strip. Maybe having an attack down here, but I don't think he's close enough. He hasn't got a good run out of that final chicane.
He's not really got a very good run at all there. So he's not going to have the opportunity down into turn 1. Tim Adcock might have a chance here on Robertson into the chicane. It's very close, but not really an ideal overtaking opportunity, as we've learned here. Somewhat surprising to me, that one. You'd expect the longer braking zone, the tighter corners, to be a good opportunity into the chicane, but in the end it's been very flowing turn 1 and 2 where people have decided to make the move, and indeed the shortest straight of the 3 around the back of the circuit. So that does surprise me a little bit, but either way it's provided some very exciting racing. Mike Booson's not going to be a fan of it though, and he's not a fan of this either, going off the road into the gravel. He's pushing hard, but maybe a bit too hard.
Yeah, all those little mistakes do add up, cost you time, and he's not got a lot of time because Darrell Taylor is only half a second behind him, and he's looking to make a move and maybe get a position.
Chase down Martin Booker and reclaim that top 5. here at the moment. Child, by the way, has only had one top 5 in the 4 appearances he's had so far in this season, so it's going to be a pretty big day for him. Clark has only had one as well, despite the fact he's in the top 5 in the championship. Been very consistent, but just knocking on the door of that. He's in P4 at the moment, and Martin Booker is even further down in this championship, I'm afraid to say. Not up towards the heights of Clark in 5th. He's down in 8th, is Booker. He's had 3 top 5s out of the 6 appearances so far, so yeah, it's all chop and change. As James Child wasn't showing out of this race. I just wonder if that's an internet problem, or whether he... Oh, yeah, it is, because he's back again. We'll be very glad about that, because he's not had many chances at the top 5 this season, and he's got a chance for a podium here, so he doesn't want to blow it. Once again, having a few problems there, Child, with the internet, but hopefully keeping things alright. Tim Adcock still applying the pressure here for 17th position. We go into the driver's eye view here almost. Not a great exit off of that chicane though, and that's exactly what you need. If you want to move down into turn 1, you need a good run out of the chicane, and that's exactly what Adcock hasn't had through that section of corners. Turn 1, 2 again.
Great on-board view there, and just from the driver's eye view, and it just the gap's opening and closing up between these two. It's been continuing for a couple of laps now, and just wondering if Adcock, who's had a couple of off-track excursions, has had a few issues, but he's just looking to climb back up a couple of positions. We are on lap 19 of 20 now, so he's very much running out of time. Further ahead, Taylor. This is another battle here. Currently, pressure pot from Bird. He's really sat in the slipstream. It looks like he's just showing his nose. He's making his intention to where they're known as they're literally coming round to the last lap as Simon Edwards has started. What is the last lap? So he's on his way for a victory at the moment. There's going to be a swap of positions here. There's all sorts of pressure going on, and some interesting lines through the chicane there. But at the moment, it's all coming out the same way as it went in.
Yeah, the last time Jamie Bird went for a move through the final chicane there, it didn't turn out that well for him, but he's got the run off of the turn this time and trying to go for Taylor into turn 1. Richard Brown also in a similar situation on Jocelyn, trying to get that top 10. But now can Bird get through? Well, it's very close, but I don't think he's done it through 1 and 2. It's going to have to be a last lap lunge out the final chicane. But here's Simon Edwards. He's got over 10 seconds over Paul LeMay. He's continuing to extend a championship lead over. He's going to add another 5 points to the 87 he came into today with to bring that to 92. And with only 4 races to go, he's got a chance of sealing it, possibly next week at the Hockenheim race. Of course, we've got the drop weeks to factor in though, so we'll do some maths in the intervening week. And next Thursday, when we return for the next round of this championship at Hockenheim, we'll know whether Edwards can clinch it there or not. I suspect actually not, given the drop weeks. However, he's absolutely running away with this one right now. 11 seconds is his margin over Paul LeMay. He's been running on his own as well today in that second place. James Child also had an interesting day to get that podium, and Clark and Booker haven't finished with each other just yet. One final replay before Edwards comes over the line. Colin Wynne is going to go for a spin here at the hairpin. Another tricky turn, one of the most tricky in this car. He's getting on the power on this occasion that was the problem. Meanwhile, it's not been a problem for this man. Simon Edwards over the line again to take his 4th win of this UK&I Radical Race Series season. It's 2022 season 1, and he's dominating. Over 11 seconds between himself and his main championship rival Paul LeMay. But can you even call him a rival anymore? Edwards is absolutely destroying the competition. James Child it finishes in 3rd position. A great day for him, ahead of Clark, who just about held off Booker. Booston just about held off Bird, and Darryl Taylor and Bird just about got through, and Darryl Taylor on the final lap there. Sergio De La Cruz managing to really recover well after an early problem for him. 9th place and running up the top 10 is going to be Richard Brown after overtaking Phil Jocelyn on the final lap. Didn't see what happened between those two. Jocelyn has clearly had a problem somewhere along the line. Well, a longer race on this occasion, 20 laps, a little bit more strategy element between that one, and Radicals don't normally associate in my mind as having those slightly longer races, but deem that a bit of a success there. It was still an enjoyable race despite its slightly longer length.
Yeah, it was exciting. It was a great race, was that, to be honest. Some good action throughout the field there, some good battles. Fair share of incidents for a few people, but as ever, there was a few people battling back from adversity and trying to come through the field, as it were, and making a good job of it. Really, we're just waiting for the results to be confirmed, and we'll get them up on the screen for you, and we can just confirm that what we already know, really, and that's Simon Edwards is the winner here at Suzuka. So here you go.
Yep.
Oh,
just over 11 seconds between himself. Well, here we nearly go.
Here we nearly go.
It just. Yeah, yes. Just over 11 seconds between himself and Paul LeMay. As I mentioned, that championship margin now going to be 92 points between the two. James Child with a nice podium there. Paul Clark holding off Martin Booker there inside the top 5. Mike Bousson finished just ahead of Jamie Bird and Darryl Taylor, who were battling right towards the line. Sergio De La Cruz managing to get that top 10 as well after early problems. Richard Brown overtook Phil Jostin on the final lap for a top 10. Dave Dowson, despite his big slide through the Degner curves, managed to finish 12th ahead of Phil Glover, who went for a big slide through the Dunlop curve just a little bit earlier. Michael LeMay didn't have a good day at all. He finished down in 14th, despite the fact he was well within a shout of a podium for over half of that race. David Rollison, 1 minute down on the leader, I'm afraid, ahead of Guy Robertson, Tim Adcock, and Ray Peasley in the top 18. And in 19th position, it was, who was it? Martina Ward, it was. And Graham Brown, losing lots of points in the championship for the man, 3rd place in there after a difficult day and a very bent rear wing, I've got to say. Outside the top 20 though, Colin Wynne, who had a very long pit stop in there early on, as did Graham Brown, and Paul Wilkins never took the start, I'm afraid, in this 20-lap race. So there we are. Suzuka is complete. Only 4 rounds to go in this championship, and Simon Edwards with a 92-point championship lead and only 160 available is starting to really home into view of this second title in the UK&I Radical Race Series. He's flying at the moment. Although the drop weeks do have to be factored in, he's not too far away from clinching this championship even. It's going to take a real disaster for him to lose it from here.
Yes, but never say never. I mean, we know the racing can be close. It can be sporadic. It can be frantic. It can be chaotic at times. But it's never dull. It's always exciting. And Simon Edwards, he just needs to do what he's done, and that is qualify well. He's not always been on pole position, but he's always qualifying relatively well. And if he can get away clean, that's all he needs to do. But I mean, he's a racer. He's going to want to win, but he doesn't have to even win now, does he? He just needs to have some strong finishes, and it's like you say, it's almost looking like it is his championship. So be interesting to see how he goes. I think we have got some interviews though waiting you.
We do at least have the man of the moment, Simon Edwards. Once again, we've got to remember to give him the power to talk. There we are. So we've done that. Simon Edwards joining us once again. Another race victory for you. It was an absolute runaway in that one, over 11 seconds by the end. Talk to us about what it was like to drive this car around Suzuka, because to be honest, from a spectator's point of view, it looked very enjoyable out there for the drivers today.
Yeah, I always love Suzuka. So I couldn't miss this race. I've been practicing for the Bathurst 12 hours, and I couldn't miss this race, not at Suzuka. So I came in, just used my setup from last time. Had to make a small tweak to get it stable, but it's really enjoyable. Although a bit scary on the last laps because my tyre rears were going.
Yeah, I can imagine. We did see that actually a little bit from others as well. In terms of this championship, to my calculations, you're now 92 points in front in this one. I know we've got to factor in the drop weeks, which is going to be difficult maths. But how are you feeling about the final 4 rounds in this one? You've got a very, very big lead. But yeah, how are you feeling going into the final 4 tracks?
Well, I'm feeling good now. I thought John and Paul would turn up. Paul Crabb. That's who I'm doing the 12 hours with, by the way. So I'm surprised they didn't come here just because it's Suzuka, but I'll find out why later. But yeah, that might give me a good chance at winning it, with John being my nearest pace competitor at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we wish you luck with that. Congratulations on P1 tonight, and obviously good luck with Bathurst as well. I don't think it's this weekend, is it? It's next weekend, the one after. Although you might be doing another one, I don't know.
Yes, next weekend. I'm a bit vague because I was practicing. I did a 3-hour run last night, past midnight, to check the tyres, and I'm a bit bleary-eyed today.
Commitment is what we call it. No, good luck with that and everything going on there. But first of all, congratulations on this win tonight, and thanks for talking to us as well.
Thank you, guys. You do a great job.
Thanks very much to Simon Edwards there for joining us. We've also got another man joining us in the commentary booth at the moment for an interview. Phil Glover here once again, P13 for you here today. Phil, as I mentioned, it's a bit like a bit of a chaotic race for many people out there today. What was your start like, particularly because it all seems to happen down into turn 1 and 2? Did you get much of a view as to what happened, or were you just praying that you got through all right?
Yeah, it was carnage, wasn't it? I was lucky enough that I was a little bit behind that some of those crashes happening around me, so I could just navigate around. But yeah, once that had sort of disappeared, then it was. I think I only had one incident where I left the track a little bit, but managed to keep it on the road. So it wasn't too bad. Not practiced at all this week. So perhaps that's the way forward. No practice.
Well, it may well be, but yeah, just talk to us about that little scary moment there. You referenced it. We did catch it as you went up the hill. There, very easy to get wrong, this circuit, to be honest, because it's so difficult. Did you feel like you were kind of into the unknown the whole time and on the edge, or did you feel quite comfortable despite the lack of practice?
I've done this track quite a bit before, so wasn't too bad. I ran a low downforce, so the front wheels would rush out a little bit when they were, the opening laps. I think you're tempted sometimes to take that corner a little bit faster and knock it up a gear, and I think that's what I did. I just took it too fast and it washed out. I think I dropped to the right side onto the grass and just managed to hold on to it. There's a little service road that just gave me a little bit of grip just to get back on.
Yeah. Managed to keep it on the road in the end anyway. So yeah, we'll but either way, we'll let you go now. Yeah, once again, thanks very much for coming to talk to us, and I'm sure we'll see you soon. Once again, maybe in a week's time.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll look forward to that. Catch you later, guys. Well done.
Thanks very much to Phil Glover for joining us here once again after the race. P13 for him here today. Well, that is it then from us here at Suzuka. Round 8 of the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series is now complete. There's only 4 to go, and there's only one man who is steaming away from the rest of the field in this championship. It's Simon Edwards with a huge championship lead and looking like an odds-on favourite to take this one with many rounds to spare. Come back next week to see if he can do it all over again. We're going to be racing at Hockenheim, of course. So, yeah, we look forward to that. 1 week's time.